So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the potential of the Knicks signing Marcus Smart to a vets minimum contract. So for those of you that don't know, Gershon Yabusele did take a slight pay cut to come to the Knicks, which means that they currently are 3.7 million below the second apron hard cap. So they have the second round exception, which is 1.27 million, which could go towards like Mohamed Diawara, for example, or they could give that to James Najee, and then they're going to have the vets minimum, which is 2.29 million. So Marcus Smart, he is a defensive minded guard who actually got hot from three during the last 15 games of the season, 39.2%. The Knicks should be targeting, at least in my opinion, a combo guard 1-2 that can defend, that can also shoot. Like DeLon Wright, for example, would be perfectly fine. Marcus Smart, I think, would be great. We've talked about Bradley Beal. I personally think he's going to go out west. He'll probably end up with like the Warriors or the Clippers. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but we have talked about it. But Marcus Smart, to me, would definitely be great. You'd have Smart and Deuce. The defense is going to win championships. Like, let's be honest. The Knicks are going to have to lock down defensively. I did not like the way they defended against the Pacers, at least consistently. There were some good stretches, so that would be great. Jordan Clarkson's a bad defender, an amazing offensive player. So you bring in Smart, who would be able to pick up the defense there, and you kind of can just play matchups. So I would like that as well. But my thing with Marcus Smart is just his toughness and his mindset. I think he would play hard. And I think a lot of the other Knicks players on this roster would be able to benefit off of having him on the team. Similar to PJ Tucker, even though PJ didn't play, he still made a huge impact with this roster. But the huge difference, obviously, between PJ Tucker and Marcus Smart. I mean, Smart is just 31. I mean, Clarkson's what, 33? So, I mean, the Knicks are getting potentially some very, very good veteran role players on vets minimum deals. Like Jordan Clarkson probably shouldn't have gone for vets minimum, considering he averaged over 16 a game and 4 assists, 3 rebounds. That's very good production for minimum. And Marcus Smart's the same thing. It was with a bad Wizards team. I'm not going to take too much away from his statistics. But from what I did see with the Wizards, I thought Smart did a pretty good job. 9 points and 20 minutes. Shot the three ball well, 35%, like I said. It was all the way up to near 40% in the last 15 games. And he also averaged a little bit over 3 assists. You really can't go wrong, guys, with having Jordan Clarkson and Marcus Smart on your bench in that second unit with Mitchell Robinson and Gershon Yabusele. It'd be also interesting to see which of these rookies competing in the summer league, not rookies anymore, but which of these young kids is going to be able to step in and make an impact, like Tyler Kolek and Bakom Diadi and Erlich Porty and Kevin McCullough. We'll keep an eye on that Friday and, well, throughout the weekend, really, because we're going to be playing 2 games over the weekend. And I believe the last game's on Tuesday against the Nets. Could be wrong, but yeah, summer league's going to be fun. But in terms of the actual vets minimum contract that the Knicks still have, which is, like I said, 2.29 million. I think Bradley Beal would be an awesome fit. I think Marcus Smart would be good. I wouldn't hate Ben Simmons. I think any of those 3 would be amazing. But I also do like bringing in Diawara or Najee with that second round exception to stay under the second apron hard cap. I'm not big on the collective bargaining agreement. I'm not big on the salary cap thing because, yeah, I mean, you look at baseball, the Dodgers, and there's no salary cap. But I mean, that shouldn't really penalize the Knicks because it seems like all of a sudden people want to be in New York. They know that this team's heading in the right direction. They're a piece or two away from a championship. And now all of a sudden you're handicapped to be able to bring in guys. So yeah, I mean, vets a minimum. Obviously, you're not getting like a starting caliber monster 2 guard or anything like that with that amount of money, but you could still bring in a lot of good depth pieces. And that's what the Knicks need. The starting lineup is perfectly fine. At the 1, you got Jalen Brunson. The 2, you got Mikal Bridges. The 3, you've got, I'd imagine, Josh Hart. At the 4, OG Anunoby. And then at the 5 is Karl Anthony Towns. If the Knicks do want to get creative, they can put Mitch at the 5 and Cat at the 4. I don't think they'll do that. Obviously, they have the opportunity to. But I do think the starting 5 will remain the same, which means off of the bench, the Knicks have a chance to strengthen that. And against the Pacers, against a team like the Celtics, for example, is the bench was essentially non-existent, if I'm being completely honest with you. So that's something that I highlighted as a major strength going into the offseason is expanding upon the bench. Utilizing it is going to be key. I don't think Tibbs did a good job of that. The Knicks finished last in bench scoring last season. A lot of that was Tibbs just didn't play the bench, overworked the starters, and it cost him his job ultimately. but it's also more about just having good players that you can trust to go out there during key stretches. And that's something that the Knicks just they really haven't had. Like they've had Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel quickly and Precious Achua and Campaign, Landry Shamet. I mean, those are good players and all, but we're talking about Marcus Smart and Jordan Clarkson, Gershon Yabusele. Those are some high level role players, man. Those are championship level role players. And I personally would like Marcus Smart, but I'm not gonna lie, I would prefer to go out and to get a forward because if you do bring in Marcus Smart, what happens with Tyler Kolek? Because the same thing when we talked about getting Tyus Jones is a guy like Jordan Clarkson doesn't actually take away from Tyler Kolek because he's going to be playing the backup two off of the bench. And now you have Deuce and Kolek, so you got to have to get creative there. I think honestly the guard position's perfectly fine. I don't think the Knicks need another point guard. But in terms of the forward position, I mean, I would love Bacome Diadier, Gershon Yabusele, and Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons makes the most sense, and it's been reported that the Knicks did check in on Ben Simmons, and there's a realistic pathway for that happening. It's just Ben wants more than vets a minimum, which to me doesn't make any sort of sense, because if you're Ben Simmons and you have a chance to come to New York, chance to turn your career around with a really good roster, a team that you know is competing in a weak Eastern Conference, I don't know what Ben Simmons is really thinking, because obviously he hasn't lived up to expectations, and even if he gives the next 10 to 15 minutes a night, I mean, that's amazing. Like, it's going to help compete. And the Clippers, they didn't really have much of a role for him in the playoffs. I think that's the opposite for the Knicks. They're going to have to run into Giannis, and maybe they'll have to run into like Paul George and Joel Embiid. I don't really know if those guys can stay healthy or not. But yeah, ultimately, I think Ben Simmons would be great here. I just think Marcus Smart, in terms of his overall ability as a player, you can't go wrong. You can't get much better. I don't think you could get better than a player like Marcus Smart. But how does he fit in with this team? To me, it was either Marcus Smart or Jordan Clarkson. And now you go out and you get, of course, Clarkson. And Bradley Beal, like, I get you could make the same argument for Bradley Beal. But Bradley Beal is a guy who was giving you 50% from the field, about 40% from three, and 17 a night. I mean, it's Bradley Beal, guys. So, I mean, if it's a player like that caliber, I have to take it into consideration. But to me, I personally would actually not want to bring in Marcus Smart. I've seen it. I've seen so many Knicks channels make videos on it. I haven't watched any of them, but I've seen so many articles. I'm more of like a reader. Like, I'll read these versus watch videos on it about things like this. And there's just so many articles. There's just too many articles to even be able to count. So in terms of that 2.29 million, I think the Knicks should honestly sign a wing with that, because this team needs more size, if anything. Like, Yabusele is a good pickup. I'm glad they did that. He can play a little bit of the backup five, but I do think that you need another player next to him, of course, out there. Unless Bacome Diadier has a really, really good summer league, then I'd feel comfortable with him and Yabusele with that backup forward. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if Diadier is quite ready to step in. He's got a lot of work to do. He shot 32.3% from the field with the Knicks, and it wasn't, I think he shot 40% with Westchester in the G League, so not really that much better. So actually 40% might even be high. I don't know. 40% is not very good. So in terms of that last roster spot, yeah, I'm going to say I actually don't really want Marcus Smart. I wouldn't hate it at all if they did it. But to me, I'm still zeroing in on Ben Simmons and Bradley Beal. And also there's going to be other guys. What about Kyle Anderson? What about Kevin Love? Kevin Love is expected to be bought out. So there's just too many names to me right now to just go get Marcus Smart. Because I think there would be too much of a logjam at the guard position. I mean, really, guys, Clarkson, Smart, Deuce, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. I don't want Marcus Smart, but it has nothing to do with his overall ability. It's the same thing to me about Tyus Jones. I didn't actually want the Knicks to bring in a backup point guard. I'd rather just give it to Clarkson or give it to Kolek or give it to, of course, Deuce McBride.